Hey there, hope you're doing good. Engineering leaders should work either as an architect or as a manager, not both. First, let's define these two roles. The first role is called an architect, also called a staff engineer or a principal engineer. Or I have heard someone say, I'm an engineering leader, not an engineering manager. Whatever you call it, this individual contributor role identifies, and by the way, if you're not used to corporate jargon, that means someone whose job is not to manage other people. His job is to do work by himself. So whatever you call this individual contributor or architect role identifies technical and process problems coming in the way of achieving company goals. He defines a roadmap of initiatives that should be worked on. For example, he might say that improving scalability is a priority, but not reliability. Or that there's so much technical debt that we are not well positioned to continue delivering features. He makes technical decisions like choosing frameworks on the back end, web, and mobile. He puts in place a high level DevOps plan or the foundation of the DevOps. He may put in place coding guidelines, continuous deployment, launch process, QA, code reviews, and so on. He makes sure the team is productive. Right? He can handle both project management processes and engineering processes as required. So, for example, if the scope of work is often changing after an engineer finishes the work and he's told what you did is not what we need, that's a project management problem. The architect or the engineering leader can identify these and flag these. This person codes at least one day a week to remain technically strong and grounded. So, this is the architect role. The second role is called an engineering manager or director, VP, CTO, etc. These people deal with people management as a primary responsibility. Employee satisfaction, giving feedback to each person, dealing with non performers, defining a job ladder like deciding what senior engineer means, promotions, coordination between people, project updates, people issues, and so on. If you add up the time required to do justice to both roles, it's more than one full time work. Sometimes people say that that's true at a late stage but not at an early stage. That at an early stage, one person should be able to do both. That's actually not correct in my opinion. Even at an early stage, there's a lot of groundwork to be laid. What framework do you use for the front end, Vue or React? How about mobile? Do you use Flutter? Do you build separate native apps? Do you target only one mobile platform to begin with to get product market fit? Do you not even build a mobile app instead using a PWA? Or not even a PWA? Do you just say, hey, use a computer? How about the backend? Do you use functions as a service? Some other serverless platform like Google App Engine? Do you use a framework like Elixir, which has very high reliability? Do you use a framework like PostgreFile or PostgREST or Hasura that eliminates a lot of the boilerplate in building a backend? How do you do continuous deployment? So even at an early stage, there's a ton of foundational work needed. And if you try to do justice to that and people management, you will fall short at least one of them, probably both of them. And we see this happen all the time at startups. People management is often compromised. One engineer I know was moved between 5 projects in 1 year and then told he's not doing a good job and asked to leave. Many engineers don't get feedback on how to improve, so they continue making the same mistakes again and again, and they become resentful towards the company. Coordination doesn't happen well, so people do work and they're then told that that's not what was needed. People put in their papers and the company then scrambles and tries to retain them, which is too late. All these are symptoms of inadequate people management. Similarly, the tech side is often lacking. The tech is broken, the company is not able to deliver features on time, etc. Again, all this happens because there isn't one person tasked with playing each of the roles. Many people are not even clear in their mind, or they think wishfully, as we do as kids. When I was a kid, I thought I'll be an astronaut and a fighter pilot and a scientist and a secret agent. As we grow up, we realize we can't do it all. We have to narrow ourselves. But that narrowing needs to happen even if you have 10 years experience. So pick one role, say this is your primary role, and say I'm not going to do the other role. So, for example, if I were looking for a job, I would be an engineering leader without being a manager. I would say I'm not going to deal with all the people side things: coordination, convincing people, giving feedback, promotions, job ladder, employee satisfaction, hiring, all these things I'm not going to take care of. Just because there isn't time. That's one way of saying it, of handling it. Pick one of the two and say, I'm not going to do the other thing. And the engineers can, so they can report to a product manager who is anyway coordinating their work. Because often what happens is that the engineering manager and product manager, when viewed from an individual engineer's perspective, have overlapping roles. So maybe the product manager can also be the people manager, or one of the founders can take on this role, or a separate like VP or engineering manager can be hired for this role. But whatever it is, and that person, I would say, in this hypothetical conversation could report to me, they could report directly to the founder, whatever it may be. But that is not my personal responsibility. I'm not going to do that. That is one way of handling this. Choose one of the two roles, say I'm not going to do the other role. The other way of handling this conundrum, should you choose to go that route, is to say this is my first priority. If I have time, I'll do the second one. For example, say that technical leadership is my first priority. If I have time, I'll do people management. But don't count on it. However, you do it, pick one job and do it well. Set yourself up for success in one job. It is better to define your role a little more narrowly than you would like in your daydream, and do that narrow job excellently rather than doing both mediocrely.